Hello.
Hi, Tim.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Randy. I'm doing an interview with you if you still have some time for me this afternoon.
Oh hell yeah. How you doing, Randy?
Awesome. I'm doing really well. How about you?
Doing good.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. I love the idea for your project and what I've heard of the contribution. So I really appreciate the time and hopefully we can enlighten some of my readers and viewers. Are you in your lair, as you called it, in the announcement in Pennsylvania?
I'm actually at home at the moment. I'm
Okay,
about to, once I finish this, I'll go. I have to go to the violin repair shop, and then I'm going to head over to the studio.
gotcha. Okay, well, I guess that's sort of where I wanted to start off. Is that I was wondering why you chose that particular part of the country for your lair, as you call it. Is it something about it that inspires you, or just a nice, peaceful area of the country, or what?
Well, it's where I live. Uh, 5 minutes, eight minutes or so from my house. So yeah, I've been living in this part of Pennsylvania for I guess about 26 years
Oh,
now.
wow.
I was born in New York, so I'll always be a New Yorker. But now I've kind of migrated a little west, and yeah, I settled in here with my wife about 26 years ago or so, and we bought this house about 20 years.
Wow. Okay,
And
great. That just kind of that stuck out to me because I actually had to look up that term because I had never heard it before. um,
so later,
no, the
you know that's
Pennsylvania thing that I hadn't heard before. So, I mean, I'm from the South and I just moved out to Baltimore just a couple of years ago. So I'm not too far away from your part of the country now, but I'm still learning some of the terminology out here in the Mid Atlantic that I have not been around for a long time. So, um, all right. Well, thank you for that. So, for anyone, just in case I have some readers or listeners that haven't heard some of the details of the project, can you just give me just a quick overview of the Wilderness in Space project, and then we'll get a little bit deeper into some of the aspects of it.
yeah. Well, I started you know, uh, Jeff Miller and Phil Folino and I started the band. It started as a conversation at a music festival that we were all playing at. I was playing with Road Earth, and they were playing with their band New Monsoon. And we had played a bunch together, like jammed a bunch together over the years. And this is like 7 years ago. We're almost 8 at this point. And I was like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we just, the three of us got together and made a record? That would be cool. And we'd be like, yeah, that'd be cool. And it kind of just stayed that way for a while. And maybe about 4 or 5 months later, I realized I had a little block of time, a couple of weeks off, and my wife was going down to Florida to see her mom. So I just said, hey guys, I'm coming out to San Francisco and we're going to write some songs. And so, we figured out, we got a friend who lent us his house, believe it or not, in Marin, up in the redwoods, essentially in a coastal rainforest. And we set up camp there for about 5 or 6 days, and each of us had like little shards of songs, and we just started spitballing ideas at each other, and eventually we wrote like half the first record in that little 5-day period.
Wow.
And then that went. I went out a couple of more times, and we wound up figuring out just, we can't just have the three of us. Who else would we like to have play? And so then we thought of Keith Mosley, because we all dug his playing, and we all loved him as a person. And we thought, wouldn't it be cool to have Jason Han, String Cheese Incident's percussionist, play drum set? Because I know he's a great drummer.
Mm-hmm.
So we went on that, and that just so happened to be when String Cheese was on their hiatus. So those guys had some time, and so I brought them out, and we rehearsed the material. And actually, we didn't even rehearse the material, to be honest with you. We just essentially sent them tapes of the demos, and they charted them, and we just tracked the things in the studio. And I also brought on board our afterwards, I did some overdubs with this sort of gospel group that I've worked with in the past, the Black Swans, including Cheryl Renee. And once we got the record all in the can, and they sang on a couple of songs, I asked Cheryl to join the band because she and I sing really well together, and we started to write some material that included her as a lead vocalist. And so once we did the first CD release party for the first album, then Cheryl came on as a full-time member. And so we did the first record. We released it as a limited edition of I guess it was 1,500 when it was all said and done, and it included the DVD of the making of, which is a really interesting movie that was filmed by a friend of ours, Amy Cutler, in the studio while we made the record. And that was something we just did. We knew that we weren't going to be able to tour because everybody, it's trying to get one band to do one thing is kind of like herding cats, but trying to get 4 different artists, groups, bands to do anything is like herding grasshoppers. Yeah. So it's mostly intractable situation. So we managed to, the first year that we had the record out, we managed to do a couple of CD release parties, one in Denver and one in San Francisco, and then we did do a festival that year out in Colorado. So we did 3, and then every year we seemed to be able to get together and do 2 or 3, and then the one year, once it became evident that Jason wasn't going to be able to play because he was working so much with his other band, Ioto, we got Matt Butler to come play drums. And then we did actually 4 years ago, we did 4 years, it might have been 3 to 4 years ago, we did 6 gigs, and then String Cheese Incident got really stupid busy again, and then it just became impossible for us to do anything. But in the meantime, Jeff and Phil and I were still writing music. I was going out all the time. We got into this groove where I would go out a couple of 2-3 times a year, and we just sit in Phil Ferlino's little studio and we'd write. And so we wound up writing a whole new album's worth of material. So as we were going along, I was like, well, let's take a couple of days and we'll see if we'll book a gig. And we did it in the Bay Area. We booked a gig, and then I booked us into Bob Weir's studio, and we tracked 3 songs in Weir's studio and we had a gig. So I had a reason, and I was able to accumulate enough money to fly everybody out and put them up with the money that we made from the show. And I paid everybody except for myself. And myself, Jeff, and Phil were kind of the investors, so to speak, at first, Right. So we would eschew payment and just pay all the bills and get everybody out so everyone was comfortable, make the record. We got a great deal at TRI. We used a fantastic Ricky, or engineer that we used on the first record. He had become the chief engineer at TRI, so that worked out great. And so we started tracking the second record, and it took a long time, and it took us over 3 years to get enough time and get everyone together. And then finally, I put off the last 3 songs because I couldn't get Matt. Matt all of a sudden got very busy with his project, Everyone Orchestra, and there was no way I could get him into the studio. So I wound up, I had been producing a record, and it literally is just coming out for the new Great American Taxi record. But I cracked that a year ago, and the drummer on those sessions was Dwayne Trucks. And he and I got on really well, and I told him about the contribution. He said, "Hell, man, I'd love to do that." So I brought him in, and he tracked the last 3 songs, and they're super epic, nice songs. And so that's how that all came together. But then it's okay, now what? So we got a record, but what do we do with it? And I kept thinking the only reason why bands put out CDs, and to be honest with you, I'm so over CDs. I appreciate the medium and all that, but it's just kind of, I don't know, man. I just think they've seen their day, to be honest with you. Okay. Everybody's streaming. Everybody's doing digital downloads. There's not a lot of people getting the physical CDs. If anything, people are buying vinyl more. So more now than more and more, it seems. So I thought, well, we used all the money that we made from the first album to record essentially record this album, the second album. So, that's in the can and it's already paid for. Why don't we just figure out a way to create, because most bands they're making a record, they're not making any money on records because people don't really buy them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a reason to buy them because they can stream the stuff. So it's very difficult to sell CDs anyway, especially in the jam band scene. People like they'd rather go and hear crappy live recordings that, that people recorded in the audience with a ton of people chattering away underneath the microphones and like, oh, hey man, doesn't sound great. Well, yeah, the band's playing good. But that conversation that's happening over in that left channel, man, that thing just doesn't shut up. I'm just gonna blow my speaker up.
Right.
And it's just on and on. But so the thought was, okay, well, now how do we do something? Because bands just want to release things to create a story so they can get people to review the record or make a story out of it or somehow get a little bit more of a buzz so that maybe they get some more people to come to their shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of the process. But the thing is, we don't do shows, so that's not a reason for us. So I needed another reason. So the reason that I came up with was, let's just give the money away. And everybody in the band, I put the idea out to everybody. I said, please just everybody just pick their favorite nonprofit and we'll go from there. And so everyone gave me a list of things that, things that were dear to them. And I went with as many of them as I could. And we just put up a list of 7 nonprofits. So we have 10 songs. And so the idea is that we'll release a single per month for 7 months, and we'll have a different nonprofit be the beneficiary for each song. And then what we get out of that is that we can get people to play along with it. It's almost like they're subscribing to like a cool magazine that just happens to have a digital recording included with it. And so we will get a little bit of press from it, and people will talk about the band, and we'll keep the band in people's minds as opposed to because when you dump a whole CD, it's just like, there it is and there it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I figured let's try making a story out of each one, or to the best of, considering that what the project is doing to the best of its ability, and see what that does. And just give all the money away, because and then after we get through the 7 songs, we're gonna do a separate GoFundMe. Hopefully, people will be on board enough that they'll have only invested $7 in the music so far. Maybe we can convince them to give us another 10 or 15 or 20 or who knows, 100 or 500, whatever anybody wants to contribute. Considering that what we're doing is because we're going to make a new record. We're already writing songs for the next record. What we want to do is do this again and then again and again, and that this is going to be our mode of our modality, so to speak, of releasing music is by giving the music away to the benefit of organizations that need the money.
Great.
And that's kind of it in a very large nutshell. I'm sorry it took a long time.
No, you're fine. You answered like my first 3 questions and 4 questions all in one, so that's good. I guess the next thing I was wondering is, does the actual music follow this sort of theme of giving that you seem to have, or is there even a common theme among the actual music, or do all the songs sort of each have a different message all to themselves?
They kind of have a message all to themselves, because it's good to remember that the whole idea of how to release the record came after all of the songs were written.
Gotcha.
And to be honest with you, I kind of don't want to get into the business of thinking about what the nonprofit's mission statement is and then writing a song about that, only because then it's almost like a work for hire without being hired.
Okay.
And I kind of like when I write a lot of the lyrics, and I write also some of the riffs. Like most of the songs kind of start with a riff, so some of them are mine and some of them are Jeff's and some of them are Phil's. They all pitch in. One of the songs on the record is mostly Jeff's Passengers of Darkness. But I wrote Phil and I wrote all of the, like you'll see there's an opening motif with singing. It's kind of like a sing-songy thing, almost like a Mumford and Sons thing, because it just seemed like the song was so dark, but it seemed like it kind of wanted to be lightened up somehow. So Phil and I came up with this little sing-song motif, like almost like a lullaby. But for the most part, we've all agreed, the three of us agree, that no matter who or whatever anybody's contribution is to the contribution, that the three of us will share, the songwriting credits equally.
Right.
This way, that eliminated a lot of things, but not the least of which is like worrying about what the fuck part of your, of your percentage of whatever it is you did. Just don't worry about that. Just go all in, and you're going to get 1/3 no matter what. And just give me your best of what you possibly can add, and everything's great.
Good. Yeah, I like it. Now, another thing, in your initial announcement, you said that your debut release, Which Way World, was fun, but, and I quote, "This shit is the bomb." So how is Wilderness in Space different from Which Way World, as far as the music goes?
Well, it's kind of a, Which Way World was a kind of a gem, right? But it was a gem that had maybe the facets of a small diamond, and we're getting closer to the Hope Diamond with Wilderness in Space. There's many more facets to it. It's a little denser. The one song that we did that wound up being perfect fit for one of the nonprofits is the one song that Cheryl Renee sings, and I wrote that I wrote the lyrics for that for Jeff after his mother passed away from breast cancer.
Oh, I see.
And so it doesn't like overtly mention anything about breast cancer or anything like that, and it doesn't kind of only skirts around the subject of dying, but you can totally feel that's where the message is. Okay. And Cheryl sang the living shit out of it. And so that was a no-brainer. Yeah, we're going to give that to the BCEF, the Breast Cancer Emergency Fund, which is this little nonprofit in the Bay Area that provides monies for treatment and hospice for homeless women that have breast cancer.
Oh, that's nice. Okay. And then, so this album was, it was recorded, you said, was it all at TRI Studios, or were there other studios that you guys recorded in?
We recorded 3 songs at TRI, and then the other 7 songs were recorded, at least the basic tracks were recorded at a studio I worked at a lot in Denver called Silo Sounds with Todd Dival Engineering. Mm-hmm. And I did some overdubs here in Pennsylvania in my studio, and also in I have a partner out here that I work. I work in his studio a lot. I do a lot of producing in his studio called Mixolydian here. Right, and he actually is in the same building as my studio is. In fact, he's on the same floor. We're right down the hallways from each other.
Oh, nice.
One of the title track, Wilderness in Space, has an outro that goes on for about 3 minutes. That is kind of a circular motif that each the instrumentation is based in guitar and keyboards, and lots of keyboards, really dense stuff, and a couple of guitars, like 2 or 3 guitars. So there's this thing that just kind of builds. It's sort of like Dana Life meets Stairway to Heaven or something.
Interesting.
And then out here in I had my friend Jay Ratman, who's a really talented arranger who's done I've done a lot of work with him over the last 2-3 years. I asked him to create a string chart for the outro, and so not only did he create a string chart for string quartet, but he created 4 different ones that played against each other in various parts of that outro, and then we recorded those four times each. So there's this huge, dense, and obviously very difficult to mix outro to the title track that's got 44 tracks
Wow.
of things, and it builds to this climax, and it's sort of like trying to create the oral equivalent of the death of ego, and it releases back out into a portion of one of the vocal refrains, and that's how the song ends. But it's just like a huge thing that builds and builds and builds, comes to an absolute, chaotic and, really just, really dense, big string thing that just dissolves and goes away, and then ends with, with the last little bit. And it's like unlike anything I've ever written before or had anything to do with. And everybody I've played, all the musician friends that I play that track for, there's always this like 30-second silence after, and that's followed by like, holy fucking shit.
Actually, to be perfectly honest, that's kind of how I felt when I first heard on the last Railroad Earth album, the Last of the Outlaws. I can't remember what they're all called, but it's sort of like a suite that all had Latin names. That's how I felt after that. That blew me away. That was one of the first album reviews I ever did, actually, now that I think back on it. But very cool. I appreciate the insight into that one. And this is all being released on Low-Hi Records, right? Which is also somewhat of a new project, if I'm not mistaken, of yours.
Yeah. This is our first year, essentially last year was our first, 2016 was our first year. We released 2 records last year. We released Town Mountain, which did very well and is doing well. It was debuted at number 4 on the Billboard chart, Billboard Bluegrass charts. And then we released in July, an album by Nashville singer-songwriter Rory Carroll. And that was produced by Rory and Todd Snyder. And that got, reviewed in Rolling Stone, and it's doing pretty well. I mean, and then we literally just released the new Taxi record. And then, we're imminently about to release the first single. In 10 days' time, we'll release the first contribution single, which is a really unique thing. So it's kind of hard to even say like what it is. It's not like we're not actually releasing a record. It's sort of we're dropping a single, but it's part of this whole other thing, which is we're really super stoked about.
Right. Okay. Well, as far as a little bit more about the label, is there a specific philosophy behind the label, or something that you guys were specifically going for, like a specific genre or specific level or type of artist that you want to work with and help build up?
It's essentially we're trying to keep it in the broader category of Americana.
Okay.
But we're kind of dancing around it a little bit. We are in negotiations with a couple of new artists that we'll try to release later this year. Yeah, so we have other things, coming down the pike, and so we're in kind of final negotiations with 2 different artists, which I'm not at liberty until we actually sign it.
Right. I
but
understand.
The general philosophy of the band, not the band, but the label is essentially the boilerplate contract that we look for is we want to have artists come to us with finished product. So in other words, go in, make your record, have your artwork ready, and what we'll do is we'll assist you with the manufacture and the mastering. So we'll help you put together the mastering of the record and then manufacture, and then we'll take care of the promotion.
Okay.
And also at the moment we are talking with a couple of different distributors, but at the moment we actually don't have distribution. So we're essentially we're a promotional company, or marketing / promotional company. So until we secure we actually secure the distribution. That's like the next piece of the puzzle, and we're pretty close for that.
Okay, great. All right, so going back to the band, you talked a little bit about the individual members and how each of them are important. So that's all been covered here. I guess the last thing that I really would like to, and you touched on it a little bit about the future going past, this upcoming year. You said you're already working on the next one. You want to keep doing it. So this is something that you guys see as being an ongoing project, not just a one-time drop a record. Like I know it was a big jump in between the first one and this one, but you foresee it being more of an ongoing project going forward from here. Is that correct?
It's definitely going to be an ongoing project. We're going to. Our plan is to, finish writing the next record, which we haven't actually written a single song yet. But I have probably shards for 4 songs that, and experience with these guys and the contribution in general has taught me that if I get in a room with a shard of a song, then that would help those 2 guys. A song will be born.
Right.
And the same with them. So I'm assuming Phil doesn't come up with quite as many actual shards, but he is like the Mr. Harmony chord guy. Mm-hmm. So we'll get in and he'll go, how about this? Or why don't we voice this way? Or what if we, don't bore us, get to the chorus, that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay, great. Well, we'll look forward to more from the contribution. Obviously, there's still a lot more to be announced throughout this year. Is there anything else about the project or about the contribution that you want to say to the fans?
Yeah, well, we are going to do, like I was starting to say, and I don't know if I finished the thought, was we're going to do a GoFundMe to help fund the next record. And part of the, with those GoFundMe things, you're going to get the CD, you're going to get the album, the LP with it.
Right.
You might think of some other bells and whistles we can add for the, I'll come and cook you dinner or something. I don't know.
I'm sure there would be many people who would be in for that, something like that. So. That we are going to do some album release shows. We're going to do one probably in the Bay Area. There's possibility we're talking about doing the contribution appearing at Hangtown Music Festival this year. Okay.
So that's in the works, and that would probably serve as our West Coast CD release party, because the CD would probably, I keep seeing say CD, fuck CDs. Albums. The album release party would probably show up sometime the first week in October anyway.
Okay.
So instead of trying to double up and do something in the Bay Area, we would just go ahead and have it like 2 weeks later, essentially,
mm-hmm.
At Hangtown out there in the in Placerville. And then we're going to do one in Denver, which is probably going to be at Cervantes out there in Denver. Scotty Merrill's a great guy, and we all love his venue, and he would love to have us do it there. So we're going to probably do it there. And so those will be the 2 CD, fuck CDs, LPs, release parties. We'd love to do one on the East Coast, but at this point, we're probably going to not use Keith on the bass anymore because it's just been logistically impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But we may have him do the Denver release party. I'm going to leave it. I always leave it up to everybody.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Because guess what? This ain't the Army. And to be honest with you, it ain't even a job. It's like, it's a lot labor of love. And if you feel like getting down in the trenches with us, here's what we plan on doing. Can you do it? And if you can't do it, that's cool. Well, at this point, I have spent 7 years of like not doing it unless everybody can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the contribution has played maybe a total of like 16 total shows in its existence.
Mm-hmm.
But everything moves at the pace of a glacier. So I'm going to try and make it less like a glacier and more like that ice sheet that's fallen off of Antarctica into the ocean, which is going a lot faster than a glacier.
Right.
And but so on that, and to that end, I'm gonna. It looks like we're gonna have a couple of the guys from the band Fruition help us out with the rhythm section stuff. But more news on that later.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's our plans.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks again so much for your time, Tim. I appreciate it. The contribution, we got the first single coming out. Today's the 7th, so we got, exactly 10 days, just like you said. February 17th will be the first single release, and you can find more information at thecontribution.net, correct?
That is correct.
Awesome.
And the CD will be available there or on our Facebook page or on the lowhighrecords.com page or on the rexfoundation.org. And, those are the places where or you can just go right to CD Baby and get it. And there'll be a link on all of these, which is basically going to take you to CD Baby anyway. There'll be a link on all those websites, and it'll take you to CD Baby where you can purchase the CD. CD. Fuck CD. Where you can purchase the single, and also one of the cool things about it that I kind of like about it is that every single has its own little piece of artwork, which is kind of cool too.
Oh, nice. Okay, great.
Every time you go to get the next single, it'll have a little different piece of artwork on the web page that's related to the music.
Yeah, that's definitely a neat idea. It's sort of like, and I know they're not tied together, but sort of like each different nonprofit gets its own artwork. So that's kind of neat.
Right. Totally. It's mostly about the song. Right? So people, if you're interested enough to listen to the lyrics, but some people listen to lyrics, some people just want to hear the music or some combination thereof. But definitely every little piece of art has something to do with the lyric content of each song.
Okay, great. Definitely something else to look for in our first listen. So, all right. Well, thanks, Tim. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Randy.
All right. You too.